The CEO of Foursquare, transitioning it from a, again, hot consumer kind of social network into what it is today, enterprise kind of B2B. They are truly, really the Switzerland of location check-in data. And most importantly, they are adding so much utility value to that location data.
This is The Top, where I interview entrepreneurs who are number one or number two in their industry in terms of revenue or customer base. You'll learn how much revenue they're making, what their marketing funnel looks like, and how many customers they have.
I'm now at $20,000 per top.
5 and 6 million.
He is hell-bent on global domination. We just broke our 100,000 unit sold mark.
And I'm your host, Nathan Latka.
Many of you listening right now don't have time to listen to every B2B SaaS CEO that I've interviewed. If you want to get access to the database I've created with year-over-year growth rates, customer counts, margins, and many, many other data metrics and data points, you can go to getlatka.com. Here's the thing, though. This database, I keep it to myself. It's so freaking valuable. And to preserve the quality of the data and make sure that the people that have access to it have a true advantage, I'm only letting 10 companies on each month. So we're full this month, but you can go to getlatka.com to get on the waiting list for next month. And look, there's big people on the waiting list. I mean, the biggest VCs you've ever heard of. You've probably heard of them. They're big, private equity, billions and billions under management. So it's an impressive waiting list. Go get on now at getlatka.com. This is episode 779. Coming up tomorrow morning, I talked to Brandon Bruce, founder of Cirrus Insights. He has 2x'd his annual recurring revenue in the last 12 months, going from $6 million in annual recurring revenue to $12 million in annual recurring revenue. So the big question is, how'd he do it?
Hello, everyone. Good morning. My guest today is Jeff Glick. He became CEO of Foursquare in January of 2016 after 18 months as COO of the company. Prior, he was CEO of Skyfire Labs, co-founder of Site59.com, and CMO of Travelocity. If you've seen Little Travel Gnome, take your anger out on him. It's not me, right? Previously, he was strategy consultant at Monitor Company and served as a White House fellow in the Clinton administration. He holds a master's degree from Oxford as a Marshall Scholar and a bachelor's degree from Harvard College. Jeff, are you ready to take us to the top?
Absolutely. Glad to be on your podcast.
Thanks for coming on. So first question I've got for you, back in 2013, everyone, Foursquare was hot. Everyone knew it. It had it was reported it raised money at a valuation of about $650 million. Recently in January of 2016, which I believe was around kind of when you came in, an additional $45 million was raised at a much lower valuation. Ignoring the numbers, walk us through why that happened as it relates to being and moving away from being kind of a hot social network towards or more towards a kind of enterprise data company.
Yeah, absolutely. I joined Foursquare now 3 years ago. And when I joined, the company was in an evolution. The hot social network of 2011, 2012 had slowed, but we still had over 50 million people in over 160 countries using the apps. But we had developed this incredible technology, which I think we'll talk about, called Pilgrim. And we saw, when I joined, a way to turn that into a very powerful enterprise business. So, the company's early valuation was very much based on that kind of crazy question: would this be the next Facebook? Would this be the next, Twitter of the day? And that was never a sort of realistic thing in the cards. It was never Dennis Crowley, our founder's, ambition. And he really wanted to build a guide to the real world and understand when people were walking in and out and do what he calls contextual computing. So all these expectations were put on the company, and it had a valuation that was completely made up because it wasn't based on revenue. When we did our new funding, when I came in as CEO, I approached it like, let's set this company up. It's going to grow very fast, like a public company. We'll value it rationally as a multiple of revenue, and it'll grow, as we're growing over 60% now, 3 years in a row. So our valuation just keeps going up now, but it's on a rational basis, the way we'd be valued as a public company, more as an enterprise and media company than the next Instagram or Snapchat. And I think that's real, and it's authentic and sustainable.
To anchor that a bit more, so do you look at a company like what Salesforce is trading at, like some kind of bigger B2B enterprise companies, and kind of match to that? Or can you name a different company you say, hey, we're kind of like that?
Well, I think there's all kinds of companies in the space, from Trade Desk to Yext and others, as well as companies that have hybrid models like us, akin to LinkedIn, where you have this really powerful community. In our case, people mapping the world, and then that mapping understanding of 160 plus countries has, winds up in being used in a lot of your favorite apps like Uber and Apple Maps and Snapchat and Twitter and Pinterest and Samsung phones, and I could go on and on. And so it's very much a powerful location intelligence powerhouse now, and yet we're valued more like an enterprise software company.
So guys, Jeff is doing the foreshadowing for me, which is just great. But I will tell you, you may go, why is Nathan having like the CEO of Foursquare on? That thing died like 5 years ago. I might ask you guys, when was the last time you used Foursquare? And you might think, well, I haven't done it in ages, but I would bet sometime in the last 24 hours, you have helped Foursquare and their data and their back-end enterprise, their database, get smarter because you've touched them through one of their integrations. So Jeff, let's kick this off because you talked about Pilgrim, right? So tell us the story of how Capital One is using Pilgrim. And the follow-up question I have to that is, how do you make sure folks like Capital One, the ad age companies, don't abuse the ability to reach out to customers wherever they are?
Yeah, that's a great question, and we definitely help them. So what Pilgrim is that based on nearly 12 billion check-ins in Foursquare's consumer apps. And by the way, for your users who are asking, we do more check-ins today than we did 2 years ago or 4 years ago.
How many?
It's about 7 million check-ins a day, and we're approaching 12 billion cumulative check-ins.
Are those physical, is that people picking up and checking in, or are these like non-check-in check-ins?
Well, I'm talking about what we call explicit ground truth. So people open their phone, open either Foursquare Swarm, which is our guide to remembering all the places you've gone and sort of life logging and remembering, where was that killer ramen place in Tokyo that I stopped, or what was that incredible tapas place in Barcelona, or what's the name of the place where we had our second date in the village. And so that's a log, and every time someone opens and checks in, essentially they are mapping the interior of a business for us 7 million times a day, almost 12 billion times cumulatively, or they confirm a place to their, when they're writing a review or in our Foursquare City Guide. And so that explicit ground truth is what makes Pilgrim so powerful, because it then enables us passively, to your point, to recognize now when a phone in your pocket or in your purse walks in and out of 105 million venues in almost every country in the world. Again, passively, because we look at the 14 different Wi-Fi connection points on the 7th floor, and we've seen them thousands of times before. This GPS reading, this gender, this time of day, this Bluetooth beacon that's open nearby, all of these go into a machine learning algorithm that gets better and better every day and enables us to recognize with incredible accuracy when people stop, not just walk by, but stop at these 105 million places of interest. And that is a powerful thing. So you asked about Capital One.
This is a great story. Yeah, I have to tell this.
So we launched the Pilgrim SDK, which is basically a white label way for our 100,000 developers using various tools to add in background context awareness into their mobile experience to make things better for their users. And so what Capital One does is, using the Pilgrim technology baked in, it asks people, do you want to opt in to be informed when you can earn triple Capital One rewards points or double Capital One rewards points at the business you're at right now? And people opt in overwhelmingly. Sounds great. Who doesn't want more rewards points? And so a woman might stop a couple minutes at Sephora, be walking around. The technology says, oh, this is not just walking by. You're actually inside and walking around. You might get a ping on your iPhone or your Android.
Like a push notification?
A push notification, and it says, at Sephora, don't forget, triple rewards points this week on beauty purchases. And, obviously they are encouraging people to use their mobile wallet where it's accepted, and particularly where there's a relevant offer. Another company using the Pilgrim SDK similarly is one called TouchTunes. And you might not have heard of it, but it's a private company that runs 65,000 jukeboxes where you can control the music in the bar or restaurant with your phone. People love it. I won't disclose their revenue, but it's a lot higher than you'd think. And they had a problem, which is that people had their app and they loved it, but the problem was that
you didn't know if it existed, right?
You didn't know if you were in a place that had this setup. And so they tested this, and in a matter of weeks, by implementing technology, they saw sales go up 80 to 90%, because when you walked in and stopped, that you'd get a notification on your iPhone or Android, and it would say, "Hey, are you at Joe's Dive Bar? Rihanna's the most popular artist here. You love Rihanna. Get the party started." And that people loved. It was a combination of a very contextually smart social message, and it was the right time, right place. When you talk about marketing classically, it's always about the right person, the right time, the right place. But it was always baloney, because a lot of the way mobile marketing started out was this apocryphal story of, we're going to ping you coupons every time you get Starbucks. And that was a nightmare. I mean, one of the powerful things about us is with millions and millions of users for years, we've learned when people want a message and when you should shut the hell up.
Yep.
And particularly, and we try to teach these lessons to our developers, so you never bother someone when they show up at their desk for the 1,000th time. But we're smart enough now to understand, hey, you're in Union Square, San Francisco. This is hundreds of miles from home or work. You've never seen you here before. Let's tap you on the shoulder and it's morning and tell you about this amazing, Sears diner around the corner of the best blueberry pancakes around. So that's the kind of really contextual message that Pilgrim enables for consumers and app developers.
Jeff, in 2016, when you joined, I imagine there was I'll just leave it at that, robust internal debate about the 70,000 free developers that were using Foursquare. And I imagine there are employees at Foursquare who are passionate about serving these people and letting it be free. And you go, we should charge them. And there's no downside, right? And the people are going, but Jeff, this new CEO is coming in. He wants to kill our lifeblood. How do you, one, as a leader, how do you manage through that? And two, how did you launch a pricing model around that? Was it pay as you go per API call? Was it more SaaS based? How'd you think about it?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, the time I just joined, I was 3-week-old COO.
Okay.
It's probably our founder who was CEO. And I just saw these 70,000 companies using our stuff for free, including lots of Fortune 500 companies. And I had a discussion with Dennis Crowley, our founder. This is kind of an open source style project, but we're losing a lot of money, and people using our systems, our servers, billions of times a year. I think they're big, profitable public companies. They could afford it. I got the question, well, gee, we might lose some of them if we charge them. And my response was, what do you got to lose? And the reality is we started making calls, and we didn't lose a single developer or publisher.
What was the model, though? Was it was it pay as you go or SaaS or what?
Yeah, it's a tiered SaaS license based on API calls. So it's essentially a variant of either per API or tiered. If you use it 500 million times a year pace, then you pay this rate, and if you use it 1 billion times a year, you pay this rate.
Got it.
And there are developers like Samsung phones that literally call us, hundreds of millions of times a year, because the phone wants to assemble automatically albums for you based on where the photos are taken in the background. So we do that all anonymously using our API set, for instance.
In April, I believe it was April 15th, 2016, your beautiful face was all over the place going, Chipotle is going to announce in 2 weeks, and you're going to see a big drop of in-store sales by about 30%. Okay, this was before their earnings call. 2 weeks later, they announce it's 29.7%. You were dead on, right? Millions and maybe dozens of millions of market cap vanished from Chipotle, right? We understand, based on what you shared, why you're able to predict that. You can actually see the historical real-time check-ins at Chipotle. If I'm a hedge fund and I see you do that, I am as quickly as possible going out to raise $2-3 billion for the sole purpose to buy Foursquare, simply to make and build the world's largest hedge fund. One, has that happened? And two, why hasn't it gone through?
Well, 3 of the world's 5 largest hedge funds are customers of ours, and they look at the aggregate anonymous data trends. Now, of course, foot traffic is not the whole picture, right? We are a piece of what analysts call a mosaic of information. So we understand in real time how many people are going into Apple stores, into McDonald's, into Starbucks, into Macy's, how the market share has changed for foot traffic, but we don't pretend to know, are there sales or promotions or margins or inventory or other factors. So it's one very helpful piece to understand are more customers coming in the door. And you got to remember that 92% of consumer spending is still offline, 8% is e-commerce, including Amazon and all the rest of e-commerce. So, categories like auto and grocery and retail are still in the physical world. And if you aren't having customers come in the door, your sales are going to be down, like Chipotle's down 30%. As we predicted. And so it's a piece of a mosaic, but we're not investors, we're technologists, and that's where we like to play.
This is when I was kind of prepping and having my research team to research for this, I said, this is the classic example of somebody, you hear the adage, you'd sell pickaxes to the gold miners, right? Don't go after the gold mine. You could argue Foursquare in its heyday, right? Social network beat Facebook. That was the gold mine, right? You're going for the gold mine. And you quickly realize, you know what? This infrastructure is way more important. It's better to kind of go back into the background and sell the pickaxes, sell the jeans, sell the shovels to the people mining for gold, the Ubers, the ride sharing, the hedge funds, etc. My key question for you, though, as a CEO driving the company, it must take so much self-discipline to resist the urge to go into these businesses. Like, for example, if I had seen this Chipotle data, I would have taken all of the cash Foursquare had in the bank, hedged, right, Chipotle, and made a shit ton of money, like putting my money where my mouth was. Why didn't you do that? How do you resist that urge?
I just think we have a mission, and that is we're a location intelligence company, and we want to bring location intelligence to explorers and makers and leaders. And that's kind of what we wake up excited to do. If we wanted to work at a hedge fund in Connecticut, we would go work at a hedge fund in Connecticut. We're really proud of building these tools that all these companies can use. It's kind of what we're about. Our developer, I just met with a developer for coffee the other day, and I was saying, well, why do you love your job? And she said, well, if I get this stuff right, she was a data scientist, my algorithms are going to be in, almost every major app other than Google and Facebook in the world, and on almost every phone, and it's going to make these phones better. And that's exciting to me. It was a transition culturally, because we started out, of course, thinking of ourselves as this consumer company, and we still have these wonderful consumer apps. But, the developers got excited when Twitter announced that you could tag a tweet using our technology. When Pinterest, now Uber's database of pickup and drop-off places is us. And Snapchat uses us for some features, not all, but the geo-filters and other features that are coming. And so all of these apps that people are using every day, they're made better by Foursquare, and we're proud of that. And that's kind of what we want to do. We don't want to do 1,000 things. We want to do one thing really well, and that's what we're technologists. We're not hedge funders. We're not any other business. We're not in the future. I think we'll make real estate better. That we're not even in that world right now. But imagine we understand every block in the world, what kinds of people are there, how many this week versus last week, and but we're not real estate brokers. But we'll probably make real estate brokers smarter in the future. So that's sort of what we wake up to do.
You guys have to keep listening to the show. I'll have the Redfin CEO on here shortly. It was actually already recorded before they announced they were going public, so I got some good information, and we actually talked about that exact kind of data-driven approach. Jeff, last question before we wrap up. People listening are going, Uber, why is Uber using Foursquare instead of like Facebook check-in data or Google Maps, right? The reason is obviously, I imagine is obvious, right? The Uber is maybe one day going to be competing with Google or Facebook to some degree. What percentage of your revenue would you credit to being because you're not Google or Facebook?
Well, I'll tell you a lot. Overall, the business is 90% B2B, over 90% B2B, and the rest being, ads in our consumer beloved apps.
Jeff, just to be clear, that's your Places API built on Pilgrim, Place Insights for Business, your enterprise side, right?
And also the advertising side, where half of the Ad Age 100 are buying advertising audiences that we design based on people who are fast food junkies, people who are fitness junkies, people shopping for a car or the like. So that's a big business for us called Pinpoint that's growing about 90% year over year. So those are non-Foursquare users through our network of other apps, and they're non-Foursquare inventory, but we are making it smarter by matching your ads to the right people. And so those B2B businesses are over 90% of the business. And when apps like Apple, Microsoft, Samsung, LG, Reddit, Twitter, Pinterest, Snap, these are all paying customers for us. when they made decisions, sure, they want a Switzerland. They want a company that is every bit as good as Google Maps at understanding where phones are. But if you're Uber, you're in lawsuits against Google. You're trying to build the future of self-driving cars, and you do not want to be dependent on Google in the future. I talked to one of the big 3 automakers, I won't say who, about, were they going to use Google software, Android Car? And this automaker head of Palo Alto Research Center said, well, gee, that didn't work out well for HTC. And, so I think a lot of smart companies want to build differentiated mobile experiences in the future, and we're helping them do that. That is our business. Unlike, Amazon or Google or Facebook, we're not out to eat their lunch. We're out to help them make a better lunch.
Guys, big news. Last month was a huge month for the company I recently acquired, which was www.thetopinbox.com. I liked the company so much when I met the person who created it. It lets you send emails later on Gmail, set up reminders like snooze almost to keep your inbox clean, do things like send auto follow-ups, and do open tracking so you know when your emails get opened. It's great if you're in sales or a CEO or trying to be more productive. So listen, I bought the whole company on the spot, and I want to tell you how I did it. I've showed the deal, by the way, to big, smart people, private equity firms, VCs, and they're dumbfounded. They go, Nathan, how did you do this? We've never seen a deal like this. How did you do this? So I did an unbelievable deal, and I want to show you the income report. So for me to send you the income report, go to www.thetopinbox.com. Click the red button that says install this on Gmail. And when you do that, my email will appear. It'll appear in a little Gmail pop-up window. Send me an email and I'll reply immediately with the income report. And you can see how I'm buying and growing small B2B SaaS companies. That's www.thetopinbox.com. Totally free to try and use. www.thetopinbox.com.
Jeff, let's wrap up here with the famous 5. These are one-word answers. Number 1, what's your favorite business book?
Good to great.
Number 2, is there a CEO you're following or studying right now?
Yes. Spent some time with the CEO, founder of WeWork, Adam Neumann, and he inspired me to make this mug. So, Adam, if
hold it up. That's cool. Shout out to Adam.
For explorers, makers, and leaders. He said, make sure your mission is on a mug that everyone is drinking coffee from daily.
I love that. Number 3, is there a favorite online tool that you use as you're kind of building and growing and managing the growth of Foursquare?
Well, obviously, I love our own apps, Foursquare Swarm and Foursquare City Guide. But I've been listening to a lot of podcasts on Stitcher lately from thoughtful people in politics and business. Right now, I'm listening to Malcolm Gladwell's Revisionist History, which I recommend.
That's great. Number 4, how many hours of sleep do you get every night?
About 7.
Okay, good. So super. I have people on all the time. They go, Nathan, we're doing 100 million ARR, but then they're like, I'm divorced and get 2 hours of sleep with 3 kids. And I'm like, do you want to copy that strategy or not? Right. So 7 hours of sleep. And what's your situation, Marriott?
I see my 3 kids every morning, although sadly I don't get home in time to see them, to put them to bed, except on the weekends.
That's great. So 3 kids, married. And Jeff, how old are you?
I am 48 years old.
All right. Take us home. Take us back 28 years. What do you wish your 20-year-old self knew?
I would just give confidence to that 20-something to say, you know what, it's going to be okay if you take the risks. In all of my career, I turned down I left the National Security Council to go do a crazy startup, last-minute travel. I turned down McKinsey to go off and work on poverty alleviation in Latin America and peace in the Middle East. I turned down offers to come interview to run marketing for Facebook and Google, to join Skyfire Labs, this little pre-revenue company, because I wanted a chance to try to be, to lead a startup. And, all of those choices, I don't regret any of them. So take the risk, turn down the easy option, and go for it, and life will be richer for it in lots of meaningful ways.
There you guys have it from Jeff Glick, the CEO of Foursquare, transitioning it from a, again, hot consumer kind of social network into what it is today, enterprise kind of B2B. They are truly, really the Switzerland of location check-in data. And most importantly, they are adding so much utility value to that location data. Jeff, good luck. Thank you for taking us to the top.
Thanks, Ed.
If you enjoyed Jeff today, go back and listen to Dave yesterday. His SaaS company has raised $80 million, and he did this after leaving Salesforce to bring finance departments to the cloud. His company is called Post Analytics.